Hello, happy April, and welcome to another episode of the HearTOGETHER Podcast from the Philadelphia Orchestra. I'm Tori Marchioni, and this is a space to hear from the people working hard to create a better future, inside and outside the concert hall. Today you'll hear from both halves of a Pennsylvania power couple, State Senator Vincent Hughes and singer, actress, activist extraordinaire, Sheryl Lee Ralph. You likely know Sheryl Lee from one of her iconic roles. She was Etienne Toussaint Bouvier on Designing Women, Moesha's mom, Dee Mitchell, on the UPN sitcom, Moesha, and she originated the lead role of Dina in the Broadway hit, Dreamgirls.
Every man has his own special dream, and your dream's just about to come true. Life's not as bad as it may seem if you open your eyes to what's in front of you. We are dreamgirls, boys, make me happy. Yeah, we are dreamgirls, boys will always stay.
Throughout her career, Sheryl Lee Ralph has leveraged her position as a performer in the fight against HIV, a platform also held dear by her husband. Senator Vincent Hughes has been recognized locally and nationally for his work addressing HIV/AIDS and mental health in the Black community. And since first taking office in 1987, Hughes has been a key progressive voice in the PA legislature for voting rights, wage equality, health care, criminal justice reform, education, housing, and more. From the outside, the politician and the diva may seem like an odd match, but their chemistry has been undeniable since their very first blind date. Meeting, more than 20 years ago.
I was told it was a meeting, okay? She was told it was a date.
No, I was not. It was a meeting. She said, "You got to meet my friend. You have got to meet my friend." That was it.
What initially drew you to one another? Because those sorts of setups can go so many different ways. So was there one thing that jumped out?
I think I'm on safe ground here. We were smitten with one another at first glance.
I would have to say that's true because I looked at him and first of all, I looked at him and he turned around and I said, "Who has a shawl collar pulled up? You don't pull up a shawl collar on a coat." And then he had on a Kangol and it was turned backwards. And I'm like, what senator wears a Kangol turned backwards? And then he turned around and he had the greatest eyes. And I was just like, wow. And he said, "Hello." And it was like a movie for me. And then he started talking and I was like, gee, nice guy. And then we got out, to get the cab and he immediately, opened the door and I said, wow, he's got manners. He's nice. And then we got to the restaurant and we just started talking and it was great conversation. He was fun to be around and it was just, easy. It was just easy. And what I thought was so fascinating was that here was this politician who actually loved the place he came from. For a lot of them, it's just a job. But for him, it was obvious that he loved Philadelphia, that he was the original Fresh Prince. And we just laughed and talked, and it was a wonderful evening. You know how you walk into the restaurant, then you're the last people to leave the restaurant. And you don't even realize that you're the last people to leave the restaurant. So it was all of those things all together.
We got there at 8. We closed it down at midnight.
Wow. So what kept you guys there chatting till midnight? Did you talk shop and policy and about the good of the world the whole time, or was there a point that it became a date?
So it was driven at again from my vantage point, policy. What's going on? What are you working on? How can I be helpful? And then we started talking about interest, focus. Of course, Sheryl and I had both been involved in the HIV struggle in the early days. I think that immediately connected us in a different level, in a different way, because it represented my view of her. It was, here's a person not afraid to utilize her art as a force for good. And she's embraced that. And in fact, she's been a standard bearer for a lot of others to do the same. You know, it's one of the things that connected us. It's one of the things that allowed us to sync together, and to coexist in our own spaces, doing our own things, but connect in the context of trying to make a difference, trying to make a change, trying to be a force for good.
You know what, honey? It's so interesting you just said that because, wow, because I'm hearing that now, I'm thinking about this, and I actually believe that that's true. What I do is basically using my platform, which is being a performer, to do other things in life. Wow, I never really thought of it that way. But yeah, I think you're right.
And I'm curious, since both of you have been so invested in HIV activism for so long, what was it like when you came into the fight, and where is the fight now, and what's the new growing edge?
It was horrible. People were horrible. They said horrible things, they did horrible things, and they reacted in ways that were at times absolutely unhuman and unkind. I remember people asking me constantly, "Why do you care? You're not a gay white man." And I always was confused about that because I always saw AIDS as a human issue. I never saw it as just a gay white man's problem because I lost friends very early that were black, that were female, that were straight, and I was, in my mind, it's how can you not see that they're dying as well? Children were being born sick, and I was like, how can you not see this? And the hard part, though, was being on Broadway in Dreamgirls and having your friends just drop one right after the other. I swear, in so many ways, it's very much what I see happening now with Corona. Every day with Corona, somebody is dying of the disease. And there are all kinds of people. And just like we had condoms back then was a proven barrier against the progression of the virus, HIV, could we get people to wear and use condoms? Oh, it was such a challenge. Then, it was about getting tested, knowing your status. And Vincent and I created at that time something called Test Together. And the whole idea that you would be a heterosexual couple testing together, some people thought we were crazy. And I was like, oh my God, how can you not see that this is necessary? And then for people to say things like, well, what's wrong with you all? And it's like, wow, we're just human beings. And this is something that affects human beings, gay, straight, black, white, bisexual, transsexual. It did not matter because we knew that HIV, it did not discriminate. Just like we're seeing now with Corona. Corona doesn't care. If you've got certain you know exactly what I'm saying. I hate when I can't get the word out. Honey, what's the word I'm trying to say?
If you are predisposed.
Thank you, baby. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. If you are predisposed to certain diseases already, it's coming for you. And do people want to wear a mask? No. Do people want to get vaccinated? Thank God they're starting to get the idea, oh, maybe the vaccine won't kill you the way the virus will. So there are so many similarities that I see. And the fight to help other people fight for themselves remains a challenge.
I can't add anything more than that, okay? Wear a mask, get the test, get the vaccine, stop the virus.
In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Philadelphia Orchestra had to postpone all in-person concerts. but they couldn't be kept from making music for long. Though they're yet to return to performances in front of live audiences, here's an excerpt of Vivian Fung's Prayer, written about COVID and performed on the digital stage by the Philadelphia Orchestra in fall 2020. Together and individually, Senator Hughes and Sheryl Lee Ralph have been leaders throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Their voices cut through the din because they speak with first-hand experiences of things like medical racism, and therefore understand the very real fears that keep people, particularly Black folks, from seeking care. Just a few years ago, Ralph's son, Etienne, was mugged and shot 3 times, then nearly lost his leg when the hospital released him without proper treatment. Put another way, there's nothing abstract or academic about their activism.
We use a phrase, trusted messengers providing trusted messages. This issue of trusted messengers was made more necessary in the year of the pandemic, all right? Because we were, quite frankly, the messaging that was coming from the leadership of this country was very twisted, convoluted, oftentimes incorrect, and quite frankly, a lot of lies. And folks in the community were like, what's going on? Who's talking to me? Who can I turn to? Who can I talk to? So we brought consistent, trusted messengers, African-American physicians, from Dr. Stanford to Dr. Butler to Dr. Posse, a whole bunch of folks, high-level professional African-American individuals who could talk and be seen and be heard. And so this issue of trusted messengers providing trusted messages has been a focus around COVID in our work.
And also, like you said, it was through our experience. You know, there are a lot of people out there leading the way, and, you know, you will hear people in the community say, you have no idea what I'm going through. When they look at Vincent and I, they know, we know what you're going through because we've been through it at some level, at some point in our lives. Your son got shot. Our son got shot. You didn't get the care that you deserved in the hospital. Our son did not get the care that he deserved in the hospital. We understand why you might not feel safe going into the hospital, because just like you didn't get care, we didn't get care. And our son went in wearing a tuxedo with the Senate of Pennsylvania health card, and still they took no care of him in Philadelphia.
And I hate to say it, but it is what it is. He was seen as just another black man, young black man shot.
On a Friday night.
That was an excerpt of Jennifer Higdon's Pale Yellow for piano trio, performed by Barbara Govatos, HearTOGETHER, and Natalie Zhu, as part of the Philadelphia Orchestra's Our City, Your Orchestra free concert series.
Sheryl Lee, I'm wondering, have you ever had to tone it down, hold back to fit into the role of senator's wife?
It's always about cleavage. You know, in California, cleavage. In Pennsylvania, no cleavage. You know, so it's how you present yourself, and it's, oh my gosh. Sometimes I feel like, okay, tone it down, but then honestly, I cannot tone it down. If I tone it down, then I'm not being myself. The only thing he is the cleavage police. Right. That's about it. But other than that, I basically am myself. And if I tone it down, if he were to ask me to tone it down, something would be wrong and we probably wouldn't still be together the way we are.
The cleavage police? I had never heard of that.
Yeah. It's the truth.
Sounds like a fun job.
Yeah.
So, Sheryl Lee, have you always had this self-assuredness? Because looking back at your resume, it reads like success after success after success, and that you were able to show up strong and bold and say, here I am, a dark-skinned black woman, a role model. Was there ever a time where you felt doubt or fear or small or like you couldn't be your full self?
I was the funny-looking girl. I wasn't cute. I was basically what they would call a butterface, meaning great personality, but her face. So they used to call me names when I was little. Oh my God, bullying was the order of the day. I was also the only black child in my whole entire school in my youth. And oh my God, that in itself was very painful at times. And, I realized through my parents that you had to persevere. You had to move forward because change had to happen for 60s children. Black 60s children, we had to move forward, being given the fact that now they had fought and died for the right to vote. They fought and died to live in certain neighborhoods. They fought and died so you could get the best education. They fought, they died, they struggled, they persevered. And now here you were at the dawning of a brand new day. It was your responsibility to do well, because when you enter the room, the whole race comes with you. And I'm an immigrant's child. My mother, a Jamaican immigrant. My dad, a Black American. I guess my dad would have been born a Negro, and there were all different connotations with all of that. That here this Black American was marrying this immigrant and, coming from a different country. She doesn't carry certain stigmas or shame with her. She believes she's just as good as anybody else, and you can't tell her she can't go there because she's already been there and she's going to go there again, and you better come along with her. So, my mother was always preparing me for the fight. And my father, well educated and always going for more education. They were just loading you up that, it doesn't matter if they call you ugly. It doesn't matter if they call you the N-word. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if you're the only Black person in this highly integrated neighborhood of European immigrants. You're going to have to teach those kids not to use that word with you. And for me, by the time I was 13 and in New York, I was ready for the battle and I was up for the fight, because you have called me everything. You have said everything ugly about me. And now I'm starting to look good. So I already know the ugly side. What can you do to me? So I was ready for the fight of life. And I think that's why I was able to take on difficult situations, ugly situations, hard situations, because I'd been dancing with the devil since I was born. And that's that.
Wow. It's shocking to me to think of you as someone who was called ugly or belittled as a child. That is shocking to me. And Senator, you're nodding your head. Was there a similar preparation for the fight in your household growing up?
My parents were always involved, but from the standpoint of just being diligent about what it is that they did. All right. So I'll give you an example. When my mother worked for the school district in Philadelphia, she had the most, you ask any teacher or any principal right now, and they'll tell you, and you ask them, what's the most important job in the school? And they'll tell you, the head secretary. All right. And that's what my mom was. She knew everything and everybody and every child and every parent that came into the schools that she worked in. And she basically worked in 2 schools. Well, when she retired, I went with her to the her retirement meeting where they talked about, her benefits, her retirement benefits and things like that. And they pulled up her records. And they said, wait a minute, Mrs. Hughes, you worked for the school district for 33 years. And we look at your records and you have 320 unused sick days and 240 unused vacation days, which means, Mrs. Hughes, you never missed a day of work for the 33 years that you worked. And she said, oh, of course. You have a job, you go to work.
And now that's what Vincent does. In all these years that we have been together, my husband works 8 days a week. And it is amazing to me that one human being can work the way he works. I say to myself, my God, when are you going to take a break? Because, I mean, we literally have to schedule things like phone calls. It's taken almost 20 years for me to say to him, to get him on schedule to call me in the morning. Because I know you're taking care of the business of Philadelphia. I know you're taking care of the business of Pennsylvania. You better call me and find out about the business of your wife. Oh, yes, it takes time because he is working. Ha, ha, ha.
and so there, my father was worked in the banking business, and for the last 25 years, he was kind of like the general manager of one of the oldest black-owned savings and loans in the country, Burrell. And through him, reputation. When I first ran for office, are you Jim Hughes' son? Yes, sir. Don't worry. I got you. Are you Jim Hughes' son? Don't worry. I'll vote for you. You that Hughes guy that work at the bank down the street? Yes, ma'am. I got you. It says so much, and I learned so much just from that. Do good. Treat people right. Don't fall back. Don't shy away from your commitment. Live a life filled with integrity, and it's yours. So that's my orientation. And then Cheryl and I are both children of the 60s. Okay, we're raised in the 60s, and the music and everything else in that time had tremendous influence over us. Tremendous influence over us.
That's actually because since I know you guys spent the most time together consecutively that you spent your whole relationship during this lockdown, was there any music that you could always agree on?
I tell you, we do not agree upon music at all. He loves one type of music, and he is passionate about one type of music, and that is jazz. He loves jazz. That's his thing. He can tell you about jazz musicians. He can tell you about their lives. He can tell you about their wives and husbands. Me, I love reggae. I love R&B. I love disco. I love the classics. I love Broadway. I love a little bit of rap. Even, I know when it comes to rap, and it's crazy, I do love a bit of Kanye. That early Kanye was some good stuff. Then that doggone Butterfly album by, I can't remember his name, but We Gonna Be All Right. I love some of that stuff. I love it. So I love more. I can't tell you about all of them, like Vincent can tell you. But once again, that's the difference. I paint with the broad strokes, and he knows the details. So once again, that works for us. But there were some times when I had to say, Vincent, if you don't turn down that music.
So let me add a little detail, since I fill in the detail. Mm-hmm. She likes disco. I like funk.
No, that's not true.
I like James Brown
Vincent,
or George Clinton.
Yes? I love funk. George Clinton. Come on, Ohio players. Come on now. Brass Construction. Don't leave me out of that. Don't do that to me. Thank you.
Speaking of Kanye, Sheryl Lee, you mentioned, I think to Wendy Williams, that Kanye's run for president was really embarrassing, which I think we can all pretty much agree on, that it was a horrible idea and it was irresponsible. Was that a Kanye going third party in this particular election comment, or is that a belief that you take in general, that third parties are irresponsible, that they rip votes, that we've got to kind of stick with our core Democrat, Republican, that's where the power is?
I think, and this is just Sheryl, I think you have to understand where you are at times. That may be where we are right now in this time. That doesn't mean that 25 years from now, there might not be a time when a different kind of change is absolutely needed. But right now, I believe the third party does nothing but dilute the power. And I know people only like to hear about power possibly when it's a television show or when they have the power, but there is nothing more important than the power of the people. And that is why there are people out there who spend a great deal of time trying to make sure that the people do not know or understand the power that they have. I mean, we're seeing it happening right now in, like, let's just say Georgia. You know, what's happening there, trying to keep the power away from the people. And I think, you know, being a child of the 60s, we say, power to the people. Power to the people really matters. And I'm just open to change. Where we are right now, we don't need that third party, whether it begins with a Q or whether it begins with ecology and it's a green party. I think everybody has their voice. We need to hear all of the different people's voices, but we need to stick on a certain platform. But that's just me for right now. Who knows what the future will bring?
I love that. That's a very measured answer.
That's a senatorial answer. Yeah, it's situational. It's situational. All right. You know what Brother Kanye was doing was just way wrong. Way wrong. Okay. This is not a game. We're dealing with people's lives. You know, the mishandling of this pandemic has caused 500,000 people to lose their lives in a year. More than all the people, American citizens, World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War combined in a year. Yeah. That's how devastating this pandemic has been. So this notion of I'm going to throw my hat into the ring just because it's a fun thing to do. Hell no. You don't get that luxury. You don't get, it's just serious business. Making or breaking people's lives, their personal livelihoods, their job, all right, their future, the economy, our children, our grandchildren. Nah, you don't get to play like that. All right? No.
That is why we are so lucky to have a power couple like you on the front lines of good change. So, and thank you guys so much for being here and speaking with me.
The real deal is she really does like Barry White, and I really do like George Clinton. That's the real deal. All right?
And John Coltrane.
And John Coltrane. That's the real deal.
And Amadeus. I like Mozart.
And I like Nina Simone.
I'll try to get as many of those into the soundtrack as I can for this one.
All right, make sure you have a little Beethoven there, too.
Whatever you say, I will put in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, look, we did it again. That concludes another episode of Here Together. If you liked what you heard, please remember to subscribe, rate, review, comment, share, and tune back in next month. In between uploads, you can hear more from Sheryl Lee Ralph when she lends her voice to help raise funds for the renovation and restoration of the Philadelphia Orchestra's original home, the Academy of Music, in a special event called Fanfare for the Future on May 13th. Now, per Ms. Ralph's request, to play us out, here's a little excerpt of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, recorded as part of the Philadelphia Orchestra's 250th birthday celebration for the composer last year.